All right, everybody, welcome back. One-and-Done-athon. We are here with perhaps the game that epitomizes this marathon the most, One-Shot. Like I said at the intro to this marathon, this game is super unique. I'm really glad we get to showcase it. So, Kona, go ahead and take it away.
All right, hello everyone. My name is Konasumi, and I am incredibly excited to showcase One-Shot at One-and-Done-athon. As the name suggests, it's a rather fitting game, and we just saw Cat in the Hat, which was an amazing run, by the way. This game also has a cat-like person wearing a hat, so I guess this continues on the Cat in the Hat block, so to speak. But yeah, One-Shot, it's a really cool game. I'm going to go ahead and provide some context information before we start. There's a lot that's going to be explained during the run, and I want to make sure we have enough time to explain everything. One-Shot is a 2D RPG Maker adventure game that breaks the fourth wall in a variety of ways, and we'll be going into and showing some of those ways as the run progresses. The run's going to be about 30 minutes long, and the story of the game is that we are not playing as Nico, the person you're seeing on the screen right now. We're playing as ourselves controlling Nico. So there's a bridge between us in the real world and Nico in the virtual world. I just think that's one of the coolest things. And our objective is to deliver this light bulb, which serves as the world's sun, to the center of the world in this giant tower. And at the top of the tower, we have to put the light bulb in. And we're going to be going through 3 different areas of the game: the Glen, or the Barrens, the Glen, and then the Refuge. And each of them has their own unique theme and themes to do in it. It's going to be a really cool time. One thing I do want to show off, we're going to talk about this a little bit. This is the One-Shot utility. This is a program that the community approved to be used during runs, and it provides some really cool save files, as well as an option to easily wipe your save game for resets, and it also displays the save code. The save code will be explained in the Barrens as we get into the run. But yeah, I'm really excited to show this game. I found out about it when I went to Anime Expo in 2018. The developers were there, and I saw their booth, and I just loved the game. I played it, and it was a really fun experience casually, and as a speedrunner, I really wanted to try it out for myself. And it has a really awesome community, and that's one of my favorite things about this game. And it's why I submitted it to One-and-Done-athon. This game means a lot to me, and I'm very thankful to be showing it off at GDQ today. With me, I have 2 commentators, Durbill and Beister. Feel free to introduce yourselves and talk about stuff.
All right, I'll go first, I guess. First, I want to shout out Toothy for developing the One-Shot utility that we just talked about. In the One-Shot community, they made that. Good stuff, Toothy. But yeah, I'm Durbill. I've been running this game for a little over 4 years now. I'm a big fan. I don't got much to say about my relationship with it, but I love this game. Glad to be here, and yeah, I'll throw it over to Baster.
Yeah, and I'm Baster. I've been running the game for a little bit less than Durbill. Played this game casually, just heard it recommended by a few people. If you haven't heard of the game, you probably have seen people with Nico profile pictures who are just part of the community. Huge cult following, so I kind of got into it then. Wondered what it'd be like as a speedrun. It was not disappointed. Very excited to be here.
Yeah, thank you too for joining me today. It's going to be a really chill, really fun time. Without further ado, let's go ahead and begin. Time will begin not when I press start, but it'll begin in just a little bit. First, we're going to be in this house before we get into the Barrens. The house serves as a tutorial stage, and it has some pretty cool things we can do to learn about item crafting as well as some of the other game mechanics. All right, time will begin in 3, 2, 1, go.
And house, like any other first split in a speedrun, is incredibly reset heavy, and a lot of it's because of this right here, this code.
Right, what we see here on screen, 4127, that's a remote code that we get from shining the light from the window on the remote. We get to see a code, and what we do before we start the run is we turn on colorblind mode, because what that does is make that series of numbers a lot easier to read and quickly interpret.
Makes the numbers in sequence with colorblind mode off. It makes the numbers in a random order as well, and you have to match the colors to the order of the monitor. But instead, there's no puzzle there. You just have to input the code directly.
Right. And also to note, basically with that code, the further the numbers are away from 5, the better, because that means you require less inputs to put in the code.
Kona's about to attempt a quick glitch here known as fork or pan skip. Looks like, I think he does get it. As we launched the game.
I
He
got
does get it there.
Let's go.
So
Nice
there's
job.
like a panning cutscene there. We call it pan skip. Some call it fork skip because that name makes no sense, and that's the reason why we call it that sometimes. But it skips a tiny little panning cutscene and saves about. It's less than a second. I think it's less than half a second.
It's between half a second and 1 second with in-game time.
And that isn't much time, but this is a very short speed run, and that has mattered a lot when it comes to even world record times. Like, times have been separated by frames before. I've watched some races of this game that are absolutely insane, and you see tiny, tiny stuff matter, and we're going to be seeing a lot of tiny, tiny stuff in this run.
So the way that quick glitch works is whenever you close the game, there's a small little thing that pops up. Later on, it'll be a little bit different. We'll go into that later in the run. But it pops up and talks about how Nico is in darkness while the game is closed, because the game's closed, Nico can't see anything. And that actually skips the trigger for the cutscene that's normally supposed to play to pan to the light bulb. So by closing the game, reopening it, the cutscene that plays when you relaunch the game can overwrite other cutscenes.
And that's a very famous glitch called Kip Skip, which we'll talk about why it's named that later, but we see it a few more times throughout this run. Easily, probably the most prevalent glitch in this game. Definitely one of the most defining ones.
So here we're talking to the Prophet bot. It's going to give us some information about the world that we're in, but we only need to answer one of the questions. And this is where we'll be introduced to Nico.
Right.
Yes,
Before this, we
name is
don't
Among Us
like.
Imposter.
Yeah, that's a fun thing is you can set your name in this game to anything you want. What it does is it reads your, I believe your Windows username and uses that, so it can kind of spook you if you're not ready for it. But you can set it to whatever you want, and we've chosen a very sophisticated name for this event.
Kona is, in fact, the Among Us imposter.
He is, yes. Don't get that confused with me or Baster.
You also might
I
have
am the
noticed whenever
imposter.
Kona went to sleep in the bed there, the game actually closed. That is a mechanic of this game that also trips people out a lot of times when they play it. Going to sleep closes the game because, you know, Nico's sleeping. No need for the window to be open. So every time the game, you go to sleep, you have to reopen the game as well. We currently,
Right.
for speedruns, time with in-game time, so it actually doesn't matter. But we used to time it with real time because it wasn't a good in-game timer. And it made for very interesting to find ways to open the game as quick as possible during those sleep moments, as well as any other time you close the game.
Right, and something I want to explain real quick. We just saw it there. There's fast traveling in this game, where when you enter an area, you can press a button and go to a menu and fast travel to any area you've been to before in a given area. And sometimes what we do, you'll see it right here, kind of goes into this area, warps out, and then warps back in, because the point that it warps you back into is farther into that like given room than when you first come into. It's faster to do that than to walk all the way there. And that's called super fast traveling, coined by Chris 18, a very old school runner of this game. And it's a very prevalent, not a glitch, but a little trick that we do to save time throughout the whole rest of the run.
There's a number of people, myself included, who like to count frames in this game to find optimal things, and an SFT, a super fast travel, takes about the same amount of time as walking 12 steps. So anywhere you're trying to fast travel, if you're going more than 12 steps, it's worth it to SFT.
I actually didn't know that statistic.
I tested it
Here we're
for
gonna
Upper
do some
Refuge.
There's going to be some cool item crafting happening here. Going to make this battery by combining a whole bunch of different parts that we just got in that mine. And that gives us a charged battery. And that's going to restore life to some of the robots in the Barrens.
Certain robots we need to talk to progress the plot. And to just quickly explain a lot of the gameplay here, a lot of it is finding items and combining them, using them in certain areas. So because that's the case, and because fast traveling is so prevalent, a lot of the tech of this game is menuing around, you'll see. There's a lot more of it in the Barrens here, but Baster, would you like to talk about this safe?
Yeah, the safe code is randomly generated. Normally in the game, you find it in a documents folder in a text file, but like Coda mentioned, the utility program actually can spit it out, read it for us. 814360 was the code there. If you missed it, it actually stays on. We have it on our screen here that we're watching, so it's very easy to reread. But like in the first code, the further from 5 you are, the better. So a 1 and a 9 is 1 input, a 2 and an 8 are 2 inputs because you go up, up, or down, down. So 814360, there's no 5s there. There's a 0 at the end. There's a 1. Pretty good code.
Right, and the best code you could possibly get is a 100000, because they cannot all be the same number, but there can be one that's off.
Actually,
Unlike
what's
the
interesting
house code
about
with
the
no
code is the
repeats.
code has to be larger than 100,000 is how it's coded. It's anything
really?
between 100,000 and 999,000.
I didn't know that either. I gotta. I'm a bit of a boomer.
So that's how it makes sure the code's never all zeros. So it actually can't start with a zero either. A few interesting things about how the game's coded just from us looking at the game files, as well as actually Gur, one of the developers, is in the Speedrun Discord and is fairly active chatting with us and explaining how things are done.
Right, Gur, aka Cheeser. They're probably in the chat now. Hi, Gur. Yeah, they've done a lot for this game. They've been interacting with the speedrunning community for the long time, and they've helped us out. We want to talk about mashing?
Yeah,
Actually, yeah, I think we got some time. So you may notice all the text in this game is being mashed through at like it's just flying by instantly. That used to not be the case. We used to have to mash the confirm and cancel buttons at the same time to mash through text as fast as we can. And that used to be pretty much the defining part of the run. But because that causes your hands to hurt a lot, maybe permanently, Gur, aka Cheeser, created the auto mash option for this game. Just straight up updated the game for us, gave us that feature, and that made runs way more enjoyable and frankly safe.
Yep, you can go to settings right now if you wanted to and turn on skip
personally,
text.
I've had hand pain from like having to mash through the text all the time. So it's really cool that was implemented.
Yeah, big shout out to Gur.
Huge shout out to Gur.
You'll
As well
see
as patching
here.
a couple other speedrun specific issues that we had in the game.
Yeah.
Right here looks like Kona is now exiting the Barrens, heading on into the second area.
Right. What happened there is we got a little amber amulet from a character called Silver, that one we played chess with just there. And that allows this robot that we activated by using the battery to locate the Glen, the secondary of the game.
The amber becomes
Yeah, as
very
I
important
mentioned-
later.
As I mentioned at the very start, there are 3 areas. We just completed the Barrens, and now we're moving on to the Glen.
My
personal
favorite area. Personal. Yeah, me and Baster's favorite area.
Very pretty, all the fireflies and everything going around.
Yeah.
Each area in the game actually is very different, both casually, but from a speedrun point as well. They each have like different things that they focus on. Barrens has a lot of fast traveling and walking around the world, a couple of crafts. Glen here has a couple specific puzzles you have to solve with moving around, and then Refuge later on just has a whole slew of different things. I'll get to when we
Right.
get to it.
Glen is definitely a good kind of downtime because Barrens, obviously being the first part of the run, it's very reset heavy. You want to reset early on rather than later on in any speed run. But once you get to Glen, it's always a good like, whew.
Like the first minute and a half or so of it is just walking,
Right.
which is
And
very nice.
a tiny little optimization there is you'll see Kona kind of walked really close to that character before talking to them. If you walk into a certain trigger too early, they kind of walk up slowly from the bottom of the screen to the middle of it, and that loses time.
Oh, there we go.
That was okay. That scared me. I thought I was going
was
to have
sick.
to go around.
Another
that-
instance of RNG in this game is NPC movement. There's only a few places where it can impact the run, but that robot right there is known as the Glen robot, and they like to get in your way. But sometimes they get right out of your way as well. So Kona just risked it all, kept holding forward.
It's a
works
very
out.
fun. It's a very fun risk reward there. I've had a few instances where I'll like you have to read them like it's a fighting game. Like, are they going to move up, down, left, or right? And I've had a few like, whew.
You have to get
Moments.
a hard read there.
Yep. And what we just did there, that character is a plant girl known as Maze, and they miss the sun because, as Kona mentioned, the sun is gone from this world, and we're bringing it back to the tower. So we're leaving it with them for a bit because they like it.
And now we're going to get into the first of a few tile puzzles in the game. So this is actually where normally movement in a grid-based game like this, not a huge issue. You have plenty of time. When you're trying to do very precise movement in a small area, like you're about to see, it gets very tricky.
All right, let's try that again. That can be a little tricky.
There we go.
Oh, that was actually really good after that.
That was really good. A second attempt there.
Yeah, like Baster mentioned, like movement is very basic here, but when there's so many little inputs you have to do, like the top runners, like some of them can just do this without no stop, and it's insane. There's a lot more tile puzzles later on, But when you see people just fly through that, like not no effort, but like without stopping at all, it's like it's pog worthy for me. We had a tournament for this game exactly a year ago from today. Happy birthday tournament. I saw so many like top runners just doing so much crazy stuff, like so fast, and I'm just on commentary like, what?
And for
Yeah,
reference,
the tournament is always fun.
each tile in this game is 10 frames, and this game runs at 60 FPS. So you have 1/6 of a second, which is a decent amount of time to react, especially if you know what you're doing. To do that many inputs within 1/6 of a second can be very difficult and very easy to mess things up and then have to go back, retry, and figure out what you did wrong.
And that matters a lot because again, this is a short run. If you're at top level and you mess up just one input, that your run might be dead. Might have to reset like
Nature
halfway
run
in.
like this, a lot of the run just is very much on rails. You can't really go any faster or slower when you're just walking. But stuff like that is where the time is saved.
That's what makes like the little bits of menuing, fast traveling, like not messing up tiny bits of movement. That's what makes those things matter. And I really like that about this game. Like it looks a lot simpler. And I've seen like people say, well, how can this be a speed game? Well, those tiny little things, perfecting that is so hard. And when you see it done perfectly, it is a sight to behold. I've had many a pog champ in my time watching this game, just watching other runners play.
It is satisfying. Yep.
Yeah.
We're going to pick up the light bulb here. Kind of a meme in the community is how easy it is to just leave Calamus and Lula there and walk right past and go to sleep, ignoring the light bulb. And then you can get another minute or so into the run before you realize you forgot it and before the game stops you. So
Yeah, it's a simple run, but because of how much you just go from one thing to the next, it's easy to just forget something entirely.
this
And
is just an autopilot section.
Yeah, there are several memes in the community where it's just like, we'll quote like a piece of dialogue from the game, and everybody just knows that only plays when you just realize you've lost a minute.
That one there says, "Aren't you forgetting something?" If you
Yeah.
forget the light bulb, the big robot here will ask if you're forgetting something. You gotta trade the wool to the trader here. A quick little menu, and then nap time.
Nap time, and we're back.
Let me also point out, after you sleep, there's a little bit of a conversation between Nico and the player, and the different dialogue options have different numbers of text boxes. So especially with auto mashing, so we don't have to worry as much about that. We have more time to focus on things like picking which dialogue option is faster. You notice a couple times Kono went down to the second option because there's less text boxes there.
Right, that is a thing with this game. A lot of games with text in them have like, say, a certain language that's the fastest. This game, because auto mashing is a thing, it's just down to the number of text boxes. So no language is faster than the other. At least as
Even
far as I
before,
know.
because pressing confirm will just advance the end of the text box. So there's no language faster, but
Oh, right. Yeah, true. So yeah, that allows us to focus on these little micro things that I keep mentioning. Like, because we don't have to worry about mashing, we can just actually focus on optimizing the game more and more rather than just, should I just install a macro on my keyboard?
and welcome to
Yeah,
Refuge.
Auto mashing, that was something the community appreciated a lot
Yeah,
for
Very much
those
so.
reasons. Also, this is a refuge. It's very red. It's an urban area. I like how the refuge looks. Has some
It's
of the
gorgeous.
best music in the game as well.
There's
It
a
does have
lot
some good
of
music.
there's a lot of pretty things. Like, obviously it's a speedrun, you're not going to see anything, but this game is filled with like tons of little like nice pretty moments or fun between characters. Of course, for mashing through text, you're not going to see it all. This is a primarily story-based game, so if you like what you see at all, play the game.
And
It
not only
is
that, we are
one of
only
my favorite
playing.
games.
We're playing less than half of the game as well during the speedrun. There's a whole
Right.
new game plus story that we're not going to get into. Not going to spoil anything from. So, would highly recommend going and playing it yourself.
Yeah, so you're not even getting spoiled on the whole thing. That's normally an issue with speedruns, but there's like an entire... the game is doubled in length from what you're saying here. There's so much, and it's even more of a tearjerker, which is impressive given this game is already a tearjerker.
The story is one of this game's best qualities.
Yeah, it
So
is
this
fun.
area
that-
here is really funny, really quick as well. Kona is able to fast travel out of this bedroom, even though it's an indoor area. Normally, you can't fast travel there. For some reason, that bedroom is coded not as that, so you can just fast travel right out. There's no fast travel point into it. You can fast travel out just fine.
Small little oversight there, but helps save a little bit of walking time.
Yeah, there's a few little things in this game that we have fun with, and Gert has kindly not kindly allowed us to continue with our game-breaking exploits, such as that.
Yeah, the devs have been very supportive of the community, and that's something everyone appreciates a lot.
Yeah, a huge shout out to Gur, Eliza, and Night Margin. I'm a fan of this game, if you can't tell.
Good game. Would recommend. This is a
And
pretty
it's-
chill section here as well. Just walking and collecting items to make a new button for that elevator that's broken.
Right, the elevator broke
elevator's not
down,
working.
so we got to collect rare and random things around to make a new button.
Something else that's really funny that I've noticed is each player has their own kind of walking pattern. Since as long as you're not walking extra tiles, doesn't really matter which way you go. So you can sometimes tell who's running based on how they walk, where they turn. Each player has their own little unique like pathing for different areas.
That's actually I've never heard that talked about much. Like, yeah, because it's on a grid, you can move wherever you want as long as you aren't losing tiles. I have a lot of things that like I don't do that Kona is doing here, and it's just different habits.
It's just very funny to see. I didn't quite talk to the tape there. Make sure to tape the button together, otherwise it will fall apart.
I did that once in a marathon. Don't do that.
So fun fact, this code here for the elevator that you're about to input is not actually random. There's a puzzle you're supposed to find it, but it's the same every time, 63014, which is the release date for the first version of OneShot that came out, the original freeware version of the game.
Ooh, I was
Right.
off by one.
That's I've had
And
many
I have
moments
to
like
put in the
that.
code from the very start.
And to talk about that real quick, actually, OneShot was originally released in 2014 as part of a game jam as a freeware game. It was very different to what you see now, but it's the same core concept. If you have played OneShot before and you haven't played the freeware, I actually do recommend it. It's an oddly different experience and a much darker one in some ways too. I won't
It's definitely
say much.
clunkier and moves slower than this one in general. Like there's a lot of optimizations, like quality of life improvements in the 2016 release.
Right.
But it is a fun experience for anyone who loves this game, and it's free.
is.
So
It is fast. Right, actually, it is free. So if you, I guess, don't have the money for this game, the original is still pretty good.
now we're
Yeah.
on the floor of the refuge.
Right.
So
now that we use the elevator.
if you want to talk about Kip Skip and that naming convention,
Yeah, I could do that. So we're walking around the refuge area here. There's a bunch of little areas around the whole refuge because it's a big city. There's a big area off to the left that we won't be touching. It's a big factory, and in there is a character called Kip. And when we talk to Kip, we have to get a library card to get past this robot. But instead, we can close the game, reopen it, and then this dialogue interrupts the trigger that makes that robot stop us, so we can skip Kip. Hence, Kip Skip. Oh, and here we are. So,
3. Look at that.
George,
That
there is a die. Dies have 6 sides. Each one is a different personality with different number of text boxes and the speed of how fast they go. George 3 loses 2.5 seconds to the optimal George face.
right.
It is
because
kind of a meme in the community.
we have text mashing, but the ellipses that are in George 3's dialogue, we can't skip those. So if you see those
are slow.
They're slow. I am glad we
Extra
got
funny
this.
is in practice, Kona got George 1, which is the fastest. So
Right. We did a bit of a practice run beforehand, and now I'm glad to see it though. It's a fun meme.
she's
Yeah.
she's a legend of the community. We all love George 3 immensely.
Yeah.
We love
And George
losing
is-
2.5 seconds.
So every time you play this game, you get a different like die face of George. So you can get 1 through 6. It's a die, and they all have different personalities. So if you were to play this game after, you might not get the same one that we got.
I believe
you're
it's even
unlucky
loaded.
and you're
I believe it's
speedrunning.
even loaded right before you enter the room.
Actually, yeah, that's true.
Like I think you can just make a save there and just keep retrying it. And if you exit without saving, I believe you'll just get a different face every time, if I'm not mistaken.
I think that's true.
It's either right before the room, right before you enter the staircase to the room.
Yeah.
So
All right. Right
So
now,
we're going into the tower.
yeah,
That
we
was
need.
quick.
It's you get there pretty quickly. Sometimes during runs, you just kind of like blink and you're like, oh wait, this is the last part of the run. Shoot.
the final boss. But what's interesting here is to enter the tower, part of the story is you need those 3 phosphor items, the glowing items. So the amber that you got from Silver, the feather you got from Calamus and Lula, and then the dye that we just got from George. And the game actually checks for all 3 items before entering. It doesn't just check for progression or for the last one. It checks for all 3. So there's like a theoretical Glen skip that we are always hoping is possible to skip a large chunk of that middle area. But even if we could skip the Glen, we'd still need to progress enough to get to the Feather. Because otherwise you would not be able to enter the tower, which is very interesting to think about.
And what's happening here is in tower is Nico's been talking to us this whole time, but as soon as they entered the tower, they lost the ability to. So they're kind of out of it. We're trying to help them out.
We do have Gur, the developer we've been talking about, in chat right now, who says George's default value is 0, gets rolled to a value between 1 and 6 when you enter the room.
Oh, okay.
If you watch her
Must be
sprite when
thinking
entering the
something
room, you can sometimes see her change her sprite as it's happening. That's interesting. I've never noticed that.
Oh, wow. Gur with the insider information.
Here we
Now
are.
we're
The final
amazed.
boss of the run is the tower.
All right, so tower is really cool because at the start of tower, you get an item, the clover. And when you equip an item, it'll appear in the bottom right corner of the screen there. And you can't see it right now, but normally when you play this game, you have to find a little program called the clover program. And you can line it up with your game window and it will show you the solutions to these puzzles. But they are always the same, so we don't need to do that. We just kind of run through it as a speedrunner.
The clover, we actually, for our a little behind the scenes here, is we're watching a screen capture of just Kona's full desktop. So we can actually see the clover program off on the side changing as he's going through this puzzle. But he's not looking at it. He's just solving the puzzle by memory.
Yep.
We just see it going off on the side here.
That first door puzzle is pretty simple, but this is where things get crazy.
There's more tile puzzles, and they're right here. The first 3 in general are not too bad. The second one here can definitely have some mistakes be made. But
Because
it's the
remember,
fourth
this is the end of the run. If you're on a PV pace, this is so tense. This is like a great climax to the speed run. You'll see here, like this pattern we have to do is super complex. It's a light bulb. And doing this at the end of a run is, it's a task.
Like I said, 1/6 of a second for each of these inputs here and all these tight turns.
Yes.
And that was
That
a
wasn't
great
bad.
job.
That was like probably better than most that I've done. And you'll see like top runners do that no stop. And it blows my mind how talented they are at this game.
But the run's not over yet. There's one more
Oh, yeah.
trick.
There's probably the coolest trick in the game.
coolest
is gonna
trick in the
happen
game.
right now. You thought you may have seen it all, but guess what? Guess
So you remember
what?
walls, right?
Yeah, those don't exist anymore.
We do not remember
no clip
walls.
time.
That is another interesting, the quick glitch. The stairs actually count as a cutscene because Nico moves up and to the left for the stairs. So it kind of activates a little cutscene to move Nico up so that it moves properly. But by doing a quick glitch there, closing the game, you skip the cutscene that gives Nico collision back with the world. So now we're simply vibing.
We can walk around wherever. Now we're riding an elevator to the top of the tower as well to where the light bulb room is that we put it in. Because again, we're returning the sun to this world.
And this was actually discovered
Yeah.
in the middle of a tournament.
Was it?
This was discovered, yep, like right before like grand finals or winners finals of the first tournament.
Yeah.
So this
Yeah,
is
that-
a new trick that was right around the end of a tournament setting. So it's very funny.
Time's coming up once I select this option. And time.
All right.
Thank you for your help among us, imposter. Now the sun's been returned and light has been restored to the world. If you didn't catch that there, you can actually select to break the sun, which instead of saving the world will destroy it. The advantage to that is that you get to send Nico back to their home world. That's one thing I don't think we quite elaborated on. Nico was transported to this virtual world, and doing so released them from it, and they go back to their home world and be with their family again.
Right.
I
And
like
if
this
we,
option. It has cool credits sequence. I like the art.
yeah, if we do this option where we put the sun back, we don't know what happens to Nico. It's never elaborated on. We know that they don't go home, but we don't know if they're up there forever, if they're gone. I don't know.
Unfortunately, either way, we're going to reset the game and have another speedrun coming up. So Nico's stuck with us.
Yeah.
So
Well,
I
yeah,
didn't have in-game time going during that run, but that was approximately 10 to 20 seconds slower than my personal best, which I consider, hey, that's perfectly good for.
That is good
pretty
for
good.
marathon run.
That's not bad at all.
Yeah, I'm very happy with how that went.
Yeah, that went really well. Do you have any
Yeah, and again,
other tutorials for this game people can learn from?
There is a full text document tutorial written by Beast09. You might have heard of him. Goes over every strat, all the tricks and glitches, some setups for a few things and alternate routes.
Right, that's all on
which
our
is on
speedrun.com
speedrun.com.
page. And we
As well
also
as our
have
speedrun Discord, which has plenty of runners willing to offer help, give some advice, show you how to set things up, and just chat and meme.
Yep, me, Kona, and Based are all there. It's one of my favorite communities I'm in. It's just a one-shot speedrunning community. Some people are there. They're just active. They don't even speedrun the game. You don't have to. You just want to hang out, learn about a cool speedrun, go for it. If you want to learn a speedrun, it's the best way to do it. Talk to us. We're happy to help. It's a pretty fun run to learn. Improving in this game is perhaps my favorite part about it. Once you start really learning things, like I mentioned, it's super satisfying.
I think we also owe it to Gur and the rest of the One-Shot devs to advertise the fact there is a new version of One-Shot coming out, a remake essentially from the ground up that is being ported to consoles, to all 3 major consoles, coming up sometime next year. So if you have not played One-Shot yet, you're a console player.
Including the Switch.
Including the Switch, Xbox One, and PS4.
Right. This game, the 2016 release had its 5th anniversary very recently, and that announcement was made there. It's an improved version of the game. There's no grid. You can move 360 degrees. Kiff Skip is not there, so you get to have fun with an extra RNG puzzle in your speedruns, in case you were, in case there wasn't enough for you. But it's a fun puzzle casually.
It's gonna be an entirely different run.
It really seems that way.
I'm very excited to see it.
It's going to be fun in its own way. I'm looking forward to seeing what that's like.
So even if you already have One-Shot, look forward to that.
Coda's sending you with a funny crash up on the screen as well.
I don't think that's the same crash as text crashing, which we didn't mention, but
this is the end of game crash.
Yeah, the game crashes.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you again, Kona, so much for the run. You know, we'll go ahead and say the classic One-and-Done-athon goodbye. Goodbye forever, Konasumi. Wipe the name off and move on to the next. So coming up next, we have Super Mario 64 Blindfolded 16-star, which I always think blindfolded runs are wild. I don't know how they do it. No clue. No idea. But hey, stick around. Maybe you can find out. Maybe you can learn some tips from the master. So we'll take a little break, and we'll be right back.